Welcome to the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast. I'm Terri Donahue, your Neurospicy Inclusion Coach. I am an ICF PCC Life and Leadership Coach, passionate about social justice and specializing in neurodiversity. My purpose on this journey is to partner with you as you build an inclusive coaching practice that expands your impact. Here on the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast, we believe leadership isn't just about titles or positions of power. It's about behavior, collaboration, and creating real, inspiring change. So let's get to it. Hey, leaders, we're back. And I'm going to start with a rhetorical question. What if our obsession with productivity in coaching isn't progress at all? Today, we're going to discuss meritocracy and how it can lead to ableism. I've been wanting to do this episode for just a couple of weeks now, but I thought the topic was just too big to condense into a few minutes. And honestly, it is. So we're going to break this down into smaller parts. It might be a 2, maybe even a 3-parter. I will let you know as we go along. And what I had to do is I had to call in support to get started. I connected with our new and most amazing mentee, Mindy, who has supported me in building the structure for this episode and hopefully the next, and hopefully the next. And I am now more able to initiate this task because of this amazing accommodation. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now that we're set up, let's go ahead and dive on in. I will be defining phrases like meritocracy for those of us that don't know what that means, and ableism in depth as we drill it down. But first, I want to go back and remind you of the last episode where we had an amazing guest, Natasha, with us. This is what Natasha said about meritocracy during our identity work episode. She said, "It's interesting." I wish I had her amazing accent. She said, "It's interesting because if you think about identity development and this journey of privilege, the first phase is really blissful ignorance. You're completely unaware of inequity in the world. You buy into the meritocracy myth, the idea that people get where they are just because they worked hard. And that's it. You don't yet see that the systems are actually rigged and built in a way that benefits you. I want to sit with that for a moment. Because how many of us coaches have been operating from that exact place? Believing that if our clients just had the right mindset or worked harder, everything would fall into place. If they just do the damn thing. just do it. You want to do it, just do it, right? Or maybe not. Coaches, we can't afford to stay in that blissful ignorance if that is where you are. Our clients are counting on us to see the whole picture, not just the hard work narrative. Natasha always shares some great insights. Please, you can always go back and check out that episode. But to go a little deeper today, let's start by looking at meritocracy through a historic lens, because patterns repeat if we don't recognize them. There's actually a saying, without understanding where we have been, we know not where we are or where we are going. For instance, the idea that human worth equals constant productivity didn't appear overnight. It has such deep, troubling roots. For example, did you know that during the era of American slavery, enslaved Africans who needed rest or desired freedom, that like the enslaved Africans that ran away and desired freedom were actually labeled as having drapetomania? They literally pathologized the natural desire for freedom and rest as a mental illness. Okay. This is not an isolated incident. Oh no. Puritan ideology also established that divine blessing could be measured through relentless labor and material success. Y'all, this is how power maintains itself. By labeling resistance or difference as defiance or disordered or laziness. So fast forward to the 2020 pandemic, where toxic productivity gained a significant amount of traction. The unhealthy obsession with being productive at all cost, even while dealing with unprecedented stress. The idea that our worth is tied to our output, that rest is laziness, and that we should, I'm doing air quotes, podcasters, always be optimizing and doing more. And this pattern continues today. Think about how they've pathologized conditions like ADHD and autism and other disorders. Okay? A useful resource that expands on this topic is Devon's Price book called Laziness Does Not Exist. Devon is a social psychologist, a professor, author, and proud autistic person. I'll link Devon's work in the show notes because their research perfectly illustrates the concepts we're talking about today. And I've already read the book and it's really good. Now, here's what's concerning. These same belief systems didn't just disappear. They morphed into modern workplace culture and, yes, even coaching practices. Now, let's clearly define meritocracy, also known as merit. Our meritocracy promises that hard work equals success. It's a system or society in which people are rewarded promoted opportunities based on their abilities, their talent, effort, or achievements, rather than factors like social class, wealth, identities, or connections. It completely ignores the reality that people have vastly different starting points, abilities, and needs. Historically, this term was actually popularized in 1958 by Michael Young in his book, The Rise of the Meritocracy, where he actually used it critically to point out how such systems can and will become rigid and actually unfair. So it's been a discussion for some time now. A little side note, I am not going to put that in the show notes. I can say you can definitely go check out the book. I just am not putting in the show notes because I really need to read or take in the stuff that I share just to make sure that it aligns with the platform's values. So anyway, when we say anyone can make it if they just work hard enough, we're actually saying that those who struggle must not be trying hard enough. This pull yourself up by the bootstraps thinking sets the stage for ableism. This is exactly how meritocracy creates ableism in coaching relationships. At its core, ableism is the belief that able-bodiedness and able-mindedness are superior. It shows up when society treats one kind of body or mind as the standard and designs everything around that idea of normal, leaving people struggling unnecessarily instead of recognizing variation as natural. Do you see where I'm going, coaches, leaders out there? But it doesn't just live out there. We internalize these beliefs too. Internalized ableism is when we turn that discrimination inward without even knowing we're doing it, telling ourselves we're lazy, we're broken, or not trying hard enough when we need different approaches. Coaches, ableism is not overt discrimination. It can be subtle, like assuming someone should do things the way someone else does it. And usually it's the way a neurotypical or non-disabled person does, or designing systems that ignore the variations. Example of variations include neurodivergent people, individuals with physical disabilities or chronic health conditions, people living with mental health challenges, older adults, and anyone with intersectional marginalized identities, where race, gender, or socioeconomic factors can make barriers even harder to navigate. This hidden framework shapes everyday expectations. How people should, air quotes, look, how they should move, should behave socially, manage emotions, learn, perform at work, and even form relationships. All those shoulds, we're just shoulding all over ourselves and our clients. Over time, we've internalized these norms so deeply that many accept them as just the way they are, even though they restrict and they exclude. So, how do these historic patterns show up in our coaching practices today? When we support our clients saying things like, I'm just going to push through and work harder, instead of finding accommodating strategies. When we measure success purely through conventional metrics like hours worked or task completed, or when we push people towards one size fits all systems, we're recreating the exact patterns that exclude individuals in the first place. This is toxic positivity in action. And as coaches, we can either perpetuate it or disrupt it. Next, let's talk about the lenses we need as coaches to support neurodivergent clients. I invite us to shift from asking what's wrong with them to asking what support do they need. This isn't just a nice mindset shift. It's the difference between perpetuating ableism and creating genuine inclusion. Let me share why this matters using my own experience. My overwhelm in writing this episode wasn't a character flaw. It was an executive function challenge that needed practical, friendly solutions. But here's what would have happened with the old lens. I would have told myself to just push through, work harder, be more disciplined, on and on and on. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do it. What's wrong with me? Does this sound familiar? Here's the thing. When people grow up in cultures that emphasizes meritocratic ideals, which most of us do, they absorb the belief that success and failure comes down to effort, talent, and personal choice. This shapes how we see ourselves and evaluates others. In culture neurodivergent brains, this is where the meritocracy to ableism pipeline really shows up. When clients can't reach the same outcomes using strategies built for neurotypical brains, they compare their behind the scenes struggles to everyone's highlight reels. I know y'all have seen those memes. This is the lenses shift in action. Instead of viewing challenges as personal deficits or moral failures, we start seeing them as unmet accessibility needs. We move away from seeing accommodations as weaknesses and start understanding them as basic accessibility rights. I mean, eyeglasses are accommodations. We can't do the same level of work. It's harder to work without our eyeglasses. It's harder to get to work without our eyeglasses. It will take us longer to work without our glasses. No one is complaining about the accommodation for glasses. Why are we complaining about other accommodations? Anyway, I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now because that episode is going to be the next one. And I'm going to have a guest. I digress. But here's what happens when we start internalizing these meritocratic messages. We start minimizing the need for accommodations. We push through challenges without support. We mask our struggles. We convince ourselves we should be able to do the thing. This creates a perfect storm for burnout, self-doubt, shame spirals. So maybe you're wondering, how do we actually apply this lens in our work? It starts with questioning our obsession with traditional productivity. Let's be real. We can be obsessed with productivity. I get it. But the question is, how can we move towards sustainable productivity instead? Sustainable productivity means knowing your capacity, asking for support when you need it, and recognizing that doing everything alone isn't a badge of honor. That's why I partner with our podcast mentee, Mindy. Yes, I could do it myself, but knowing our limits and asking for help, that's working smarter, not harder. That's what sustainable productivity really looks like. Now, let's tie this into coaching ethics and equity. This lens shift isn't just nice to have, it's essential. Because when we buy into meritocracy, the idea that everyone starts from the same place, all brains work the same, we're perpetuating harm. Coaches, we don't have equality. We are always aiming for it, but we don't have it. And buying into meritocracy myth, that's just unacceptable. My hope is after this episode, some of us have moved past that blissful ignorance Natasha spoke about, where we're completely unaware of systemic inequities. And we're starting to see that the systems are very rigged for some, if not most. Understanding this meritocracy to ableism pipeline makes us stronger coaches, not by lowering standards, not by lowering standards at all, not by lowering them at all, okay? But by recognizing there are many valid ways to meet those standards. My favorite spin cycle coach would say, she says this all the time, we don't have to be the best at everything. We just have to do our best. Being the best, that's aiming for perfection. We don't have that. That's impossible. No, perfection does not exist. We don't have to aim for this. There are more than one way. There is more than one way to get to the finish line. If you're a coach doing this work, and I know you are because you're here wanting to create social change, I invite you to examine your beliefs about success, effort, and capability. Are we unconsciously pushing merit-based beliefs that assume everyone's brain body works the same way? Are we supporting our clients as they advocate for accommodations? Or are we unintentionally reinforcing the ableist idea that they should manage without them? Or maybe they will manage without them. Like your eyesight's going to get better. I mean, I guess if you get LASIK, but are we feeding into the comparison trap? When our client says, well, they can do it, it's like, who's they? Are they neurodivergent? So let's gather the tools from today. We have Davon Price's approach to rethinking productivity and laziness. The importance of compassion, self-compassion, and reframing expectations. knowing when to ask for support, partnering, whether it's body doubling, delegating, pacing ourselves, and recognizing that sustainable productivity means working in alignment with our energy, not forcing output. Inclusive leadership coaches are aware of inequity. We will not be gaslit into believing otherwise. We will not buy into the meritocracy myth, period. Who is with me? When we are listening actively, we are fully aware of the systems that are impacting our clients. Coaches, the system is meritocracy. Keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep an eye out for the next episode where we'll be diving in a little bit deeper into accommodations in inclusive leadership coaching. And for all the visual learners, check out our YouTube page. I am doing it, y'all. It's not easy. And all the YouTubers, please, if you're in the car, check out the podcast. Until next time, keep being inclusive. Bye. Boom, shakalaka. And that is a wrap on this episode of the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast. If something in today's conversation got you thinking, I would love to hear about it. Connect with me on LinkedIn or at terridonahue.com. And hey, if you're enjoying this podcast or you really want to support me, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review, and stick around. There's plenty more to come. Next time, we'll dive into even more exciting conversations. Until then, keep leading with inclusion in mind.